Tabitha Davis, and originally I was born in California, but my dad was in the military, so we moved all over. So California to Texas to Arkansas, and then we ended up moving to Colorado for a little bit after he got out of the military, and Kansas, Oklahoma, just all kind of places.
When were you born?
Oh, when? November 11th, 1972, Tri-City, California. My dad was in the military, and then when he got out, he worked as maintenance, what do you call it, where they're in charge of everything in a building, so the main maintenance guy. And my mom was a registered nurse. I did art in school. That was really fun. I had a couple passions. I was a cheerleader in school. That was fun. And then when I was 19, I got married, and then at 20, I had my first son. 24, I had my second son, and that's what I've got now, and 2 grandkids. I liked art even as a kid, to draw and things, and then when I was in high school, they offered art class back then. Well, even in the earlier grades, even in middle school. Entered in a lot of different shows and things, and won a few ribbons, and then after I had kids, I really just didn't paint for a long time. And then in 2009, I think it was, the church built on a children's ministry, and they needed volunteers, so I helped them with that and realized, hey, I can kind of paint. I like this, and I can paint big scale. I can do murals and things like that. So over the course of, we started out with a lot of volunteers, and then they kind of dropped off after a week or two, and it ended up being just me. But it took me 8 months. On my downtime, I would go and paint for them, and but I got it done. And just in the meantime, realized I had like a huge passion for it, and that I could do it. So I get lost in it. I can start painting, and if I've had a difficult day, a stressful day, it doesn't matter, a great day, but I can start painting and I get sucked into it. I can paint 10, 12, used to, before I got sick, I could paint 10, 12 hours and just not even realize I'd been painting that long. So I like being able to take what I have on the inside and put it onto canvas, kind of express what I'm feeling. So this one, there was one night I couldn't sleep, and I was just feeling like I was drowning in a sense. So I threw a bunch of paint on there, but I didn't know where it was gonna be or how it was gonna turn out. So most of this is actually done by finger painting. And as I was doing it, I was like, hey, that kind of looks like water, which kind of went with how I was feeling anyway. And so as it was coming out I just started getting lighter as I went up. And I just started thinking, you know, what I was feeling like at the time. I was like, well, do I really feel defeated? No, I don't feel defeated. I feel like I can rise above. I feel like I can come out of this. I feel like just keep focused on God, and you know, I'm gonna get out of this. And so when I painted her, I wanted it to be more like to project the feeling of hope, of reaching whatever that was you were trying to achieve. So, and to get out of the dark back into the light.
Do you paint by like thought, or do you paint by?
Almost all the time, it's just whatever's in my head. Every once in a while, somebody wants a certain thing, like a custom order of, hey, paint my 3 dogs and their parents, and then it's a specific, just to what, you know, they want, or paint this family portrait, something like that. Or I've got one up on the wall that's a gentleman on his Harley motorcycle, and he wanted it in front of the spillway in Okmulgee. So sometimes it's just certain things that customers want, but any other time, my most fun is just to go with it and see what comes out. So this painting here is for a good friend of mine, Bob Jandeber, that owns Jandeber Motorsports. And I met Bob several years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, and he had wanted me to do some art for him for his park. And nice guy, super upstanding man, and I was so fortunate to get to meet him. And so he had asked me to paint many things, but one of his things that is super dear to his heart are his dogs. They are like his kids. And so he wanted me to paint this of his 3 babies and then their mom and dad, because they're not with us anymore, overlooking their babies. And on his porch there at Jandeber Motorsports, because the dogs would always sit in the chairs. Actually, this is off of a photo. They actually did sit in the chairs like that. So those are his babies.
What do you enjoy painting the most?
Everything.
Who are some of your inspirations when it comes to painting?
Like most kids in my generation, Bob Ross was a big one. And just his soothing tone, and he could, well, I don't know in real life if it was 30 minutes he knocked it out, but he just seemed to, everything seemed so easy and flow for him, and I was fascinated with it to go from a blank canvas to whatever he created in 30 minutes. So I used to watch him all the time. Other than that, I like Thomas Kinkade. I really like Thomas Kinkade. So I like that he captures the light, whether it be light coming out of a window or the light of the sun on something, or a lighthouse, the light coming off a lighthouse. So he really mastered that. That's fascinated me as well. Those two would probably be my inspiration. It was when I was volunteering for the church, doing those murals for them. And I realized that, because that was during a rough period of time for me as well. My father had just passed away. He had terminal cancer, so he lived with me for the last 2 years of his life. And I had a troubled marriage at the time as well. And so being able to do that was a therapy in a lot of ways for me. And then also when you're doing something and you realize, hey, this is what I was meant to do, it just starts coming easy and flows out of you, and you're able to create something and it be good and you could be successful. It's a good feeling anyway, but I would get lost in it to the point that even when I dreamed, I would be dreaming of painting. So yeah, I was in high school and I painted a watercolor of an Indian princess woman, and surprised me. I was like, hey, it's halfway decent. But that was probably the first one. This painting here was an inspiration because of a pilot friend of ours. His name was Tim, and he was helping my husband with his flight training. And we got pretty close to Tim. He's a pretty incredible guy. And he, a couple years ago, was flying a doctor and his family to Florida, and they ran into some storms over Arkansas and they crashed, and so they didn't make it. But I wanted to paint this as just to respect his life and to give him some honor about his life and the things that he accomplished and he did, and how much he meant to us in our life too, because he made a pretty big impact on us. So. I used to be really scared and nervous. I'm gonna mess something up. I'm gonna do it wrong. Now, I can't tell you how many of these paintings are probably 4 paintings underneath the painting you see now, because I just go with it. And if the end of it, I don't like it, I've got one sitting over here that, I mean, I like the concept of it. I don't like the colors of it. I'm gonna paint over it. I'm just gonna start all the way over again. So I paint without fear now. I don't worry about it. And that's where some of my greatest pieces have come out, because I don't paint with fear. So I just paint with passion. I know to wait, because the process of it and the layers and the textures and then the final touches at the end make all the world of the difference. So even when I'm teaching students, I tell them the same thing. You know, trust the process. Like, don't judge a book early on. You gotta wait till you finish the story. It's gonna be epic, just wait. And so I wait till the end, so, yeah. Well, with my business, I was helping a lady. She had been contacting me about donating some art for her. I didn't have a clue who she was. She just said that she does stuff for foster kids. And so I said sure, and she came out to my house and picked up, I gave her a couple of big pieces, a couple small pieces. And then I found out later, I saw my art on the news, and she's with Fostering the Arts, which is a huge program there in Arkansas, and Benton Bryant area of Arkansas, Little Rock. And they have like a lot of people in the government come, they have movie stars come. It's like a huge, huge deal. And so my art pieces, some of them sold. She said it was the one that brought in the most money for them that year for their So it made me feel good. I got to help somebody, but yeah, it did affect my business because I started getting a lot of calls. I started getting a lot of orders and different things. So that really was a turning point as far as being noticed. So sold my first international piece. So
Wow.
same time. So that was cool.
What was that like?
What did it feel like?
Yeah.
Kind of humbling because I just painted my house in a little tiny room, and something I did. It was incredible that something I did made a difference and helped somebody else too at the same time. That made me feel good to be able to help them, and that it was for something that had a purpose. But I also enjoy doing it. So win-win situation.
There's nothing better than making a living off of something that you love doing, right?
Yeah, for sure. On this one here, I was just thinking about, reflecting about things in my life and my childhood. And we lived in Colorado for some time in my childhood, and there was a lot of rocks and cliffs, and I love to explore. I love to climb up in there. The one time when I heard the woman screaming and I didn't know what it was, and all the hair on the back of my neck stood up, I ran home that day, and my stepdad said, yeah, don't go back over there. That was a mountain lion. You're probably too close to her den. Lucky you didn't get eaten.
Wow.
That's not this, but the rocks and the trees and the old buildings. There was a lot of old mining towns and different things in Colorado, and so just a memory of childhood and walking through the forest, just watching the birds and nature and the sounds and the feel of it, the wind, the peacefulness. So I love painting on wood. That's my absolute favorite. And that started from back when I started after I helped at the church. I couldn't afford canvases. They were too expensive. But a guy that worked at the church had a fencing business. And a lot of times his fence boards, if they got a little bit gray or anything like that, or maybe they were a little warped on one end, he couldn't use them. So he gave them to me for free. So I started building wood canvases out of wood that he gave me. But I learned that I loved it because just the natural grain and texture and movement in the wood, I could see a painting on it before I started painting. And so it turned out really good. Still my favorite is to paint on wood.
What themes or subjects do you find yourself returning to in your work, and why?
A lot of times women, and women that are facing away. So it's the backside, because it's what I'm feeling, it's what I'm seeing in my heart and my mind, but at the same time, like whoever this goes to, wherever this piece goes, I want it to speak to that person where they could put themselves in that same place. And nothing, because if you put a face, then it's that person. If you do it with a woman turned around, it could be anybody. I give 100% of everything that I do the credit to God. I think He's the one that's helped me do it. He gave me the gift, and I want Him to have all the credit. So anything that I paint that is awesome, it's just because He helps me. I don't want to say that it's because I learned this here or I learned that there. I just want it to be 100% me and Him and leave it there. This is how I see Jesus in my heart, which is not a traditional, what people always see Him with the long hair and the robe thing over His head. This is how I see Him in my heart. So, may not be how everyone else sees Him, but that's how I see Him.
Can we talk a little bit about that experience? How did you find out that you had cancer? How has it changed your life?
Well, I used to be able to go 90 to nothing and outrun everybody. I could mow the lawn, weed eat the yard, go help somebody do something, work on a mural somewhere, come home, do the dishes, make dinner, do some laundry, take care of animals, and still be like, hey, what's next? Maybe do another painting or something. And then over time, it got to be where just doing a mural for somebody, I was so wore out and so tired, I'd come home and crash. Or I could only mow the yard, then I could do nothing else and I would crash. I was just lost all my energy. I was so fatigued and tired all the time. I was in a lot of pain, which I found out later. I'd been living for 2 years with a kidney stone that had grown to be over 1 inch in diameter, which is pretty huge for a kidney stone. Right. And so I was just in pain. I didn't want hungry anymore. So I knew there was something going on, and the doctors, they just kept giving me antibiotic after antibiotic. You have kidney infection, you have kidney infection. And after 3 years, I'm like, okay, I'm getting to where I can't even hardly work anymore. What's going on with all this? So I switched doctors, and then ended up in an ER visit because I went septic. And they did some blood work, and they said, hey, you probably need to see an oncologist because your blood work has come back it's off. There's something wrong. So I went to the oncologist. He said, I think I know what it is. They did a bone marrow biopsy, which I don't recommend to anybody unless they knock you out first, because that's the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. And it came back with a rare form of leukemia. So that's where I'm at now, and I've got medicine I'm taking. As long as I can take it, it will prolong how many years I can live. It's just the medicine is a chemo pill, so it does make you extremely sick. So my quality of life has went down.
Right.
As far as like what I can do. So for somebody that's super active, to go to not being able to do much at all anymore is frustrating, to say the least. But I just try to find the good in things, try to focus on the happy. And it helps me that I believe in God, and I believe in heaven. I believe that what Jesus did for us made a way for us to go to heaven. I believe that when this body dies, I don't die. So I don't look at it as like my life has ended. It's just that chapter of my life is closed, and I'm moving on to the next one. So, which will be even better, which will be better than here. So.
Right. It's beautiful. What advice would you give an aspiring artist trying to navigate their way through the art world?
Well, you can't quit. You have to persevere, and you have to decide this is what you want to do, that this is your passion, because you've got to have that drive and that passion, or else, because you're going to have naysayers, you're going to have people saying, why are you doing that? Get a real job. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard people tell me, get a real job. You know, it is a job. It has to be, you have to stick to it. If you don't stick to it and you let people's influences and input into your life, because at the end of the day, it's your life. So I would say just keep going, push through it. Don't paint with fear, because you paint with fear, it holds you back. Try new things. If you fail, it's never a failure, it's an experiment. See if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. So.
Beautiful. Looking back on your career so far, what would you say has been your biggest achievement?
Well, I think biggest achievement, it's the things when I get to help people. To me, I've donated to causes for mission work, or there was one where the money that the proceeds were made, they helped the women and children that they rescued out of the sex slave trade. The fostering arts thing that I got to do and donate to them, and it brought in money to help foster kids. To me, it's things like that, or my art that touches people's lives, and they'll come back later and tell me, hey, this really spoke to me in a time in my life, I really needed it, and it still speaks to me. You know, if I'm having a down day, I go and I look at it. So things like that, okay, what I'm doing is making a difference, a good impact. So that's my success.
What is your biggest dream or goal as an artist that you haven't yet achieved?
Okay, so what I mentioned about the women and children in the sex slave trade, it's something in my heart about that. I would love to get to the point where that could be a full-time fundraiser. I would love to get to the point that there was some avenue that I could sell my art and be able to get behind something. I haven't found it yet.
How do you want to be remembered in the art world, and what kind of impact do you hope your work will have?
I don't really care if I'm remembered, but I would love that something that I did made an impact in a good way on someone else's life. So.